The crystalline doors of the grand chamber shattered as Dr. Catherine Morrison burst through them, sending prismatic shards cascading across the polished obsidian floor. A dozen Voltharian honor guards activated their energy shields, their mantis-like forms casting ethereal shadows in the chamber's ambient light. "You will cease this interruption immediately." The Grand Chancellor's translator boomed across the chamber, his gelatinous form pulsing with angry red bioluminescence. "This is a sacred ceremony." Kate ignored them all, striding purposefully toward the central podium. Her boots crunched over the crystalline debris as she clutched a quantum data crystal in her white-knuckled grip. Behind her, two more security forces rushed in, their energy staffs humming with barely contained power. "Sacred ceremony be damned," Kate snarled, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. "While you're all congratulating yourselves on first contact with the luminary, 3 of our deep space research stations have gone dark." The gathered assembly of alien diplomats erupted in a cacophony of translated protests and demands. The luminary representatives, beings of pure energy contained within ornate crystalline matrices, flickered with what Kate recognized as amusement. Their spokesman, a particularly bright consciousness calling itself First Light, addressed the chamber. "The humans' dramatic entrance, while entertaining, only serves to reinforce what we already know of their species." First Light's words manifested as patterns of colored light. "They are young, impulsive, and see threats in every shadow." Scattered laughter echoed through the chamber. Kate forced herself to breathe slowly, fighting back the urge to scream in frustration. She'd known this would happen, known they'd dismiss her warnings, but she hadn't expected the raw anger that surged through her at their condescension. "Computer," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Display file Morrison Alpha 7. The chamber's holographic systems engaged, and the space above the central podium filled with a 3-dimensional representation of deep space. Red markers indicated the locations of the lost research stations, while a complex web of quantum probability curves sketched out a pattern that made several alien diplomats shift uncomfortably in their seats. 3 stations, lost within 2 standard weeks, Kate continued, her voice taking on the clipped tones she used in her university lectures. "No distress calls. No debris. Just a quantum anomaly that." "That could be explained by any number of natural phenomena," interrupted Counselor Vexthor, his insectoid mandibles clicking in irritation. "The void is vast and full of mysteries, Doctor. Not everything unknown is a threat." Kate's fingers flew over her data pad, and the hologram shifted. These energy readings match patterns from the Greater Magellanic Cloud extinction event, the same event that wiped out the precursor civilization 50,000 years ago. This caused a stir. The precursors were the galaxy's greatest mystery, a civilization far more advanced than any current species who had vanished without explanation. But before the implications could sink in, First Light interjected again. "Ah yes, the human obsession with the precursors." The energy being's amusement was clear. "You see their ghosts everywhere, don't you? Perhaps because you're so aware of your own technological inadequacies." Only one being in the chamber didn't join in the fresh round of laughter. Ambassador Zix of the Arctians remained silent, their compound eyes fixed on Kate's holographic display. The Arctians were young themselves, barely 1,000 years ahead of humanity in development. They knew what it was to be dismissed by the older races. "Dr. Morrison," Zix's translator whispered in Kate's ear on a private channel. "Meet me in the lower archives in 1 standard hour. Bring your data." Kate gave an imperceptible nod, even as the council moved to have her formally removed from the chamber. As the security forces approached, she allowed herself a bitter smile. They could laugh all they wanted. She'd seen the pattern, studied the numbers. Whatever was out there, it was hunting, and their mighty energy-based civilizations were about to learn a harsh lesson about the value of humanity's primitive observations. She just hoped they'd figure it out before it was too late. "They're calling you the Mad Prophet on the council feeds," Admiral Marcus Reynolds said, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic displays filling his office aboard the Lunar Naval Command. He tossed a quantum tablet onto his desk, where it clattered among the archaic paper notebooks he insisted on keeping. Kate didn't look up from her analysis. Better than what they called me last week. The Arxians confirmed my findings, Marcus. Those energy signatures match exactly with the extinction patterns I know. Reynolds stood, walking to the reinforced window that overlooked the sprawling lunar base below. Dozens of obsolete, nuclear-powered warships sat in their berths, their dark hulls a stark contrast to the energy-based vessels that now dominated galactic warfare. The Council's already issued a formal complaint about your behavior. They're threatening to revoke Earth's provisional membership. Let them, Kate snapped, finally looking up. Dark circles under her eyes testified to sleepless nights spent analyzing data. We lost contact with Research Station Delta this morning. That's 4 now. Whatever's out there, it's getting closer. Reynolds turned, his expression grave. The Defense Committee won't act without Council approval. Not after the Luminary offered to upgrade our entire fleet with their energy-based technology. Those upgrades would make us even more vulnerable, Kate said, pulling up a new simulation. Look at this. Every lost station showed a massive energy spike just before going dark. It's like something's feeding on their power signatures. Reynolds studied the data, his military mind processing the tactical implications. A predator that hunts energy emissions, he mused. And we're filling the galaxy with the brightest lures imaginable. A sharp knock interrupted them. Captain Sarah Rodriguez, Reynolds XO, entered with fresh intelligence reports. Sir, the Arxian ambassador's shuttle just requested emergency docking clearance. They're being pursued by Council security forces. Granted, Reynolds barked, already moving. Deploy the 7th Squadron as escort. Activate our old ECM systems. Let's give our friends some cover. Kate followed them to the command center, where organized chaos reigned. On the main display, they watched as the Arxian shuttle dove toward the lunar surface, its energy shields flickering under fire from sleek Council interceptors. But as soon as they entered the range of Earth's antiquated electronic countermeasures, their targeting systems went haywire. Primitive but effective, Ambassador Zix remarked minutes later, their chitinous exoskeleton still smoking slightly from a glancing hit. They handed Kate a quantum crystal. Our deep space arrays detected 3 more anomalies. They're definitely artificial in nature, and they're hunting in patterns. Kate's hands shook as she plugged the crystal into her pad. The Council still won't listen. Worse, Zix's translator rendered their clicks and whistles into grim English. They're actively suppressing the information. The Luminary have convinced them that acknowledging the threat would cause unnecessary panic among the younger races. Reynolds swore colorfully. They're going to get us all killed. Not if we can help it, Kate said, a plan forming. The Council won't listen, fine, but we can still prepare. Ambassador, how many of your ships can be retrofitted with our obsolete technology? Zix's compound eyes glittered. Many. Our engineers have already begun studying your nuclear propulsion designs. Most fascinating technology, crude, but nearly impossible to detect against background radiation. Marcus, Kate turned to the Admiral, her expression fierce. Remember that proposal you made last year about maintaining a shadow fleet? Reynolds smiled grimly. Operation Cassandra. The Defense Committee called it paranoid and wasteful. He keyed in his command codes, bringing up a classified display of underground hangars. Good thing I'm bad at following orders. We've got 30 ships ready for immediate reactivation, all running on good old-fashioned nuclear power and kinetic weapons. The Council will protest, Rodriguez warned. The Council can go to hell, Kate replied, earning a surprised look from Zix. We've got maybe 2 weeks before whatever's out there reaches populated space. Ambassador, can your people be ready by then? Zix's translator crackled with determination. We're already on borrowed time, Doctor. We'll be ready. As alarms began blaring throughout the base, Council ships demanding access to investigate the rogue Arxian vessel. Kate met Reynolds' eyes. They both knew that in 2 weeks, they'd either be hailed as saviors or executed as traitors. Either way, humanity wasn't going down without a fight. The luminary celebration lit up the Centauri system like a new sun being born. 10,000 energy beings performed their sacred dance of integration, their pure energy forms weaving patterns that defied the laws of physics. The Council had gathered their entire diplomatic corps to witness the spectacle, broadcasting it across all known space as a demonstration of their technological supremacy. Kate watched the feed from the bridge of the U.S. Cassandra, humanity's newest obsolete warship, and felt her stomach twist. "They're making themselves into one massive energy signature," she whispered. "Turn it off." Reynolds, standing beside her chair, shook his head. "We need to watch, to learn." The quantum sensors they'd modify from Cold War-era detection systems painted a very different picture of the celebration. Where the official feed showed beauty, their screens showed a massive power spike that made their instruments struggle to calibrate. Energy signature detected at bearing 34 Mark 7. The sensor officer called out, his voice tight. "Moving fast. Wait." He adjusted his readings. Multiple signatures. They're everywhere. The first scream came through all channels, translated into every known language simultaneously. A luminary consciousness, designated as Third Dawn, had vanished mid-performance. Then another, and another. By the void, Ambassador Zix breathed, their translator barely catching the whisper. "It's beginning." The dance of integration collapsed into chaos. Energy beings scattered in all directions, their perfect formations dissolving as dark spots appeared among them. Places where nothing, not even light, seemed to exist. Council control. This is First Light. The luminary leader's transmission cut through the chaos. "We are under attack by unknown entities. They're not killing us. They're..." The transmission cut off as First Light's signature winked out of existence. Reynolds grabbed the comm. "All ships, battle stations. Maintain emissions control. No active sensors. No energy weapons." He turned to Kate. "Doctor, please tell me you have something." Kate's fingers flew across her console, correlating data. The quantum predators. They are using the luminary's own energy emissions to track them, like sharks following a blood trail. On their passive sensors, they watched as the massacre continued. The Council's nearby defense fleet, responding to the crisis, arrived with shields blazing and energy weapons charged. They might as well have painted targets on themselves. Council vessels, power down immediately. Kate broadcast on all frequencies. "Your weapons and shields are attracting them. Switch tow. We will not take orders from primitives." The Council fleet commander's response crackled through the speakers. "Observe how advanced civilizations deal with threats." The Council fleet opened fire, their energy weapons creating beautiful patterns in space, patterns that the dark spots immediately swarmed toward. Ship after ship winked out of existence. Arxian vessels detecting massive power fluctuations in the quantum substrate. Zix reported, their compound eyes fixed on their own readings. The predators are evolving, adapting to the new energy signatures. How many luminary remained? Reynolds asked quietly. 17, Kate answered, her voice hollow. Out of 10,000. The bridge fell silent as they watched the Council fleet's destruction. It took less than 10 minutes for half their ships to vanish. The survivors, finally heeding Kate's warning, tried to power down. Too late. The quantum predators had their scent. "Launch rescue operations," Reynolds ordered. "Minimal power, chemical thrusters only. Let's show them what primitives can do." The Cassandra and her sister ships moved into action, their nuclear engines running cold, using only maneuvering thrusters to approach the disaster zone. The quantum predators, unable to detect their minimal energy signatures, swept past them in pursuit of more powerful prey. Council vessel Enlightened Truth. "This is U.S. Cassandra," Kate broadcast. "Cut all power. "We're coming to get you." The response was thick with fear and wounded pride. How are you still here?" "Sometimes," Kate replied, watching as their grappling systems latched onto the dying council ship. Being primitive has its advantages. As they began rescue operations, new alerts flashed across their screens. The quantum predators were moving on, following the energy trails of busy trade routes toward the Council's core worlds. "Send the warning," Reynolds ordered. "All channels." "They won't listen," Rodriguez reminded him. "No," Kate agreed, watching the death toll rise. "But they'll remember this day." The day being advanced became a death sentence. Behind them, in the darkness of space, the celebration system went dark. "The Council has convened an emergency session," Reynolds announced, striding onto the Cassandra's bridge. "They're deploying the Grand Defense Fleet." Kate looked up from her station, where she'd spent the last 24 hours analyzing data from the Luminary massacre. All of it. 10,000 capital ships, 50,000 support vessels. Reynolds' face was grim. Every energy-based weapon in their arsenal. They're calling it the final solution. "Final is right," Kate muttered. She pulled up the quantum tracking display, showing the predators' movement patterns. "Look at this. They're not just hunting anymore. They're herding." A holographic display showed dark swarms pushing through inhabited systems, driving surviving ships toward the Council's core worlds. Every attempt to evacuate led to more losses, as refugee ships lit up the quantum spectrum like beacons. "Council Control, this is Dr. Catherine Morrison." Kate gave the emergency broadcast channel. "You're giving them exactly what they want. The predators are using your own evacuation routes, Toe." The channel cut off mid-sentence. On the main screen, the Council's Grand Chancellor appeared, his gelatinous form now a deep, angry purple. "Humanity has interfered enough," he announced. "Your primitive fears and obsolete technology have no place in this crisis. Observe, Galaxy, how truly advanced civilizations handle threats." The feed switched to a sweeping view of the Grand Defense Fleet. It was beautiful in a terrible way. Millions of energy shields created an iridescent barrier across the Sagittarius arm. Weapon systems hummed with enough power to shatter planets. "Sir," Rodriguez called from Tactical. "Arxian ships are reporting massive quantum disturbances. The predator swarms. They're converging." "How many?" Reynolds demanded. "All of them." The bridge fell silent. On their sensors, they watched dark spots appearing by the thousands, drawn to the greatest concentration of energy the galaxy had ever seen. "Time to intercept," Reynolds asked quietly. 18 minutes, Rodriguez answered. Kate grabbed the emergency channel controls. "Council Fleet, power down immediately. You're drawing them all to." "Silence that primitive," the Chancellor ordered. The channel went dead again. For the next 17 minutes, they watched the approaching doom. The Council Fleet maintained formation. Energy weapons charge, shields at maximum. Pride and arrogance. Right until the end. At 17 minutes and 30 seconds, the first ships began to vanish. "My God," someone whispered. It wasn't a battle. It was consumption. The predator swarms moved through the Council's defenses like a dark tide, each ship vanishing in a brief flash of quantum distortion. Energy weapons fired uselessly into the void, only serving to draw more attackers. "Signal from the Chancellor's flagship," Rodriguez reported, her voice shaking. They're begging for help." Reynolds stood straight, his decision made. "All Earth vessels, implement Protocol 0. Total emissions blackout, nuclear power only. Move to rescue positions." He turned to Kate. "Doctor, I hope those modifications to our hull plating work." "We'll find out," she replied grimly. The Cassandra and her sister ships glided forward on minimal power, their hybrid hulls designed to absorb and disperse energy signatures. Around them, the greatest fleet in galactic history died in silence. Time elapsed. Reynolds asked as they approached the massacre zone. 18 minutes. 12 seconds, Rodriguez answered. The Grand Defense Fleet is gone, sir. Kate watched the quantum readings, tracking the predator swarms as they moved on, following the panic-driven evacuations toward the Council's core worlds. They're evolving faster now, learning from each ship they consume. Chancellor's life pod detected, Rodriguez reported. Minimal power signature. They finally powered down. Reynolds nodded. Bring them aboard. All ships, begin search and rescue. Minimal power, minimal communications. We move like submarines in ancient waters. As the rescue operations began, Kate studied the quantum data with growing horror. Marcus, she called softly. Look at these pattern analyses. The predators. This wasn't random evolution. They were designed. Someone made them to hunt energy signatures specifically. The precursors. Maybe. Kate's eyes narrowed. Or maybe someone wanted to ensure that no civilization could advance too far in a particular direction. A cosmic enforcement of technological diversity. Reynolds watched the rescue crews work. Primitive ships saving the galaxy's most advanced species. Well, he said with grim satisfaction, they certainly succeeded at that. In the darkness of space, humanity's obsolete fleet continued its work, while the greatest military force in history drifted as quantum dust on the solar wind. The emergency bunker beneath Luna Command buzzed with controlled chaos as representatives from 17 species crowded around holographic displays. The former chancellor, his gelatinous form now a pale, sickly yellow, huddled in a specialized containment field designed to mask his natural energy emissions. The core worlds are falling, Kate announced, updating the strategic display. The Andromeda arm is dark. The Carina defense line lasted 6 minutes. She paused, letting the information sink in. We've lost contact with 37 major systems in the last hour. How are you primitives even maintaining this facility? A Voltharian counselor demanded, his mandibles clicking frantically. Our most advanced shielding technology coolant. Because, Reynolds interrupted, entering with Captain Rodriguez and a team of Earth's top engineers, we're not using advanced shielding technology. This bunker runs on hydraulics, fiber optics, and good old-fashioned concrete. Welcome to the past, ladies and gentlemen. It's about to save your future. He activated a new display, showing schematics of Earth's obsolete fleet. Operation Dark Star is now in effect. We've got 47 ships ready for immediate deployment, another 30 being retrofitted with hybrid technology. The Arctians have contributed 62 vessels, all modified to run dark. Nuclear power. The Chancellor's translator conveyed his disgust. Projectile weapons. You expect to fight quantum-level entities with bullets. Kate stepped forward, her patience finally snapping. Those bullets are the only things that have worked so far. Your energy weapons, they're food to them. Your shields, appetizers. But our kinetic penetrators, they can't detect them, can't absorb them, and most importantly, can't adapt to them. She pulled up footage from a recent skirmish. A human destroyer, running silent on nuclear power, approached a predator swarm. Its railguns fired, the depleted uranium shells passing through the quantum entities like stones through smoke. The swarm recoiled, several of its members dissolving into actual space-time. By the void, the Voltharian whispered, You hurt them. Turns out physics is physics, Rodriguez commented dryly. Even for quantum predators. Reynolds outlined the strategy. We're dividing our forces into hunter-killer groups. Each group will have 3 Earth vessels and 2 Arxian ships, all running modified nuclear drives and kinetic weapons. We operate like old submarine wolf packs. Silent running, passive sensors only, striking from concealment. The Arxian ships have been crucial in development, Kate added, nodding to Ambassador Zix. Their bioorganic hulls, combined with our energy-absorbing modifications, make them nearly invisible to the swarms. And you expect us to just watch. The Chancellor's color shifted to an angry orange. While primitives save our civilization, No. Reynolds smiled grimly. We expect you to learn. Fast. He nodded to Rodriguez, who activated another display showing modified Council vessel schematics. We've got engineers ready to begin retrofitting any ships that survive. But you'll have to power down completely. No more energy weapons, no more photonic drives. Welcome to the age of steel and nuclear fire. The gathered representatives erupted in argument, their translators creating a cacophony of protests and questions. Kate watched them with a mixture of pity and frustration until a new alert flashed across her screen. Silence, she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Long-range sensors just detected a massive quantum surge. The swarms, they're combining, forming something new. The display showed thousands of quantum predators merging into a singular entity, its dark mass expanding to consume entire star systems. The collected energy signatures of countless absorbed ships and beings pulsed within it like trapped souls. It's reaching critical mass, Kate whispered. All that consumed energy. It's achieving consciousness. Reynolds keyed his combat comm. All ships, this is Admiral Reynolds. Operation Darkstar is now active. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. As alarm klaxons blared throughout the bunker, he turned to the assembled council representatives. Time's up, ladies and gentlemen. You can either help us fight with primitive weapons, or you can hide down here while humanity saves what's left of your civilization. Your choice. One by one, the representatives stepped forward, pride finally giving way to survival. Above them, in the darkness of space, humanity's fleet moved silently into attack position, nuclear hearts beating steady and gun barrels cold. The hunt was about to begin. Con, sonar, contact bearing 270, deep track, moving fast. The sensor operator's voice carried the same tense focus that submarine hunters had maintained for centuries. Multiple quantum signatures, converging on the Rigel refugee fleet. Reynolds stood behind his combat team on the Cassandra's bridge, watching the tactical display. 5 human ships and 3 modified Orcs vessels moved silently through the void, their nuclear engines running at minimal output. They'd been hunting the quantum swarms for 3 days, learning their patterns, their weaknesses. Time to intercept, Reynolds asked. 6 minutes to optimal firing position. Rodriguez answered from tactical. All ships report weapons ready. Rail guns charged, nuclear torpedoes armed. Kate studied the quantum readings from her science station, her expression grim. The merged entity is learning. Look at these pattern analyses. It's not just hunting energy signatures anymore. It's starting to recognize ship configurations, predict evacuation routes. Then we changed the game. Reynolds keyed the tactical net. All ships implement attack pattern Delta. Silent running, full dispersal, just like we practiced. The human Archean wolfpack split apart, each vessel taking up positions around the predicted combat zone. Their modified hulls, combining Archean bioorganic materials with human stealth technology, absorbed what little energy they emitted. 4 minutes to contact, Rodriguez reported. Enemy swarm approaching refugee fleet. Wait. She adjusted her sensors. Sir, the swarm just changed course. They're heading straight for us. Impossible, Kate breathed, checking her readings. They shouldn't be able to detect. Her eyes widened. Marcus, they're not detecting us. They're detecting the absence of signals, the void we're creating in normal spacetime. Reynolds smiled grimly. Good. Weapons free, all ships. Let's show them why humanity never abandoned kinetic warfare. The Cassandra's main gun, a magnetically accelerated rail cannon that ran the length of the ship, hummed to life. Around them, their sister ships did the same, preparing salvos of depleted uranium penetrators and modified nuclear torpedoes. Contact in 3, 2, 1. All ships, fire. The void erupted in silent fury. Railgun rounds accelerated to near-relativistic speeds, tore through the quantum swarm, their physical mass disrupting the very fabric of the entity's existence. Nuclear torpedoes detonated in precisely calculated patterns, their electromagnetic pulses creating chaos in the quantum field. The swarm reeled, trying to adapt to an attack it couldn't absorb or process. Individual entities began to fragment, their stolen energy bleeding away into space. Direct hits confirmed, Rodriguez called out. Swarm cohesion dropping to 60%, 40%. Energy dispersal patterns are degrading, Kate added, her fingers flying over her console. The torpedoes are working. They're disrupting their quantum fields faster than they can adapt. But the merged entity wasn't finished. The remaining swarm components suddenly pulled together, forming a dense sphere of absolute darkness. All ships, evasive. Reynolds' warning came too late. The sphere exploded outward, sending quantum tendrils in all directions. 2 Arxian ships vanished instantly, their bioorganic hulls providing no protection against the desperate counterattack. Damage report. Hull integrity at 70%. Rodriguez answered. Railgun still operational. 2 nuclear torpedoes remaining. The refugee fleet's almost clear, Kate reported. But that blast. Marcus, look at these readings. They didn't just attack us. They're evolving again, combining quantum and physical properties. Reynolds watched as the surviving swarm components reformed, their structure now somehow more solid, more real. They're adapting to our weapons, learning to exist in normal space. Sir, Rodriguez's voice was tense. The other wolf packs are reporting similar encounters. The swarms are changing everywhere, becoming hybrid entities. Kate's laugh held no humor. Of course, we forced them to evolve, just like they forced us to devolve our technology. Reynolds studied the tactical display, watching as more wolf packs engage similar battles across the sector. Send word to Luna Command. Tell them. He paused, understanding dawning. Tell them we've done it. We've forced them to become something new, something vulnerable. How is that a victory? Rodriguez asked. Kate answered, her eyes locked on the quantum readings. Because now they have to follow the same rules we do. The laws of physics. And humanity. She smiled fiercely. Humanity's been working with those laws a lot longer than they have. The battle was far from over. But for the first time, the hunters were learning what it meant to be prey. The Council's emergency chamber, now relocated to Luna Command's bunker complex, fell silent as Kate finished her presentation. The quantum predator's evolution into hybrid entities played out on the holographic display, showing their transformation from pure energy hunters to something both more and less than they had been. You weaponized evolution itself against them, the Chancellor said, his translucent form shifting through shades of blue, a sign of deep thought in his species. Forced them to become physical. They forced themselves, Kate corrected, shutting down the display. Adaptation goes both ways. They evolved to counter our weapons, but in doing so, they had to accept the limitations of physical existence. Reynolds entered the chamber, his uniform bearing fresh scorch marks from his latest engagement. Latest reports from the front. 37% of the hybrid swarms have been eliminated. They're learning physical combat quickly, but they're learning from scratch. Rodriguez finished, following him in, while we've had 10,000 years of military evolution to draw from. Not everyone shared their optimism. Councillor Vector, one of the few surviving Voltharians, clicked his mandibles in agitation. This is still a disaster. Our civilization, our technology, everything we built, will be rebuilt, Ambassador Zix interrupted. But better, stronger. The Arxian gestured to the schematics displayed on the wall, designs for new ships that combine the best of both worlds. Already, our engineers work with humans to create vessels that can switch between energy and physical states. Adaptive technology, not merely advanced technology. And what of the Council itself? The Chancellor's color darkened. Our authority was based on our technological supremacy. Now that primitives have saved us. Now you adapt, Kate said firmly. like the Predators did, like humanity has always done. She brought up a new display, showing the political restructuring proposed by Earth's diplomatic corps. A new council, one based on diversity of approach, not just technological achievement. Reynolds stepped forward. But first, we finish this fight. The hybrid swarms are regrouping in the Carina sector. They're building something. The tactical display shifted, showing thousands of hybrid entities combining their remaining quantum properties with physical matter stripped from destroyed ships and stations. The result was a grotesque fusion of energy and metal, like a mechanical cancer growing in the void. They're not just adapting anymore, Kate explained, highlighting energy patterns. They're trying to achieve perfect synthesis, a form that can exist in both states simultaneously. If they succeed, they'll be stronger than ever, Rodriguez finished grimly. No, Kate's voice held firm conviction. They'll be balanced, just like we need to be. She turned to the Chancellor. Your civilization pursued pure energy technology because it was elegant, advanced. We maintained physical technology because it was reliable, proven. The truth is, we need both. Reynolds nodded. The next attack will combine everything we have. Physical and energy weapons, hybrid ships and pure states, old tactics and new technology. And after, the Chancellor's translator conveyed his uncertainty. If we survive. After, Kate said, bringing up her final display. Plans for a new type of civilization, one that celebrated technological diversity instead of pure advancement. We build something new. Together. Alarms blared before anyone could respond. The hybrid swarms construction project had reached critical mass, forming a vast entity that was neither purely physical nor purely quantum. All ships, battle stations, Reynolds commanded. This is Admiral Reynolds. Implement Operation Unity. All vessels, all species, all technologies. Together. As the combined fleet moved out, sleek energy ships flying alongside nuclear-powered destroyers, hybrid carriers launching both physical and quantum fighters, Kate watched the tactical display with a mix of fear and hope. The Council's pride nearly destroyed us, the Chancellor admitted quietly. Perhaps it is time for new leadership. He turned to Kate. The humans say you saw this coming. Warned us. Prepared for it. We've been preparing for everything since we first looked up at the stars, Kate replied. Dreaming of wonders, planning for disasters. It's what humans do. Above them, the greatest fleet in history, not the most advanced, but the most diverse, moved into formation for the final battle. Physical and energy weapons charged side by side, as humanity's primitive caution finally merged with the Council's elegant advancement. Evolution, it seemed, worked in both directions. The massive hybrid entity filled the tactical display like a twisted cathedral of quantum metal, its form flickering between states of matter and energy. Around it, the combined fleet of humanity and the former Council species maintained a cautious distance, their diverse technologies humming in careful harmony. Analysis complete, Kate announced from her station on the Cassandra's bridge. The entity's trying to achieve perfect quantum physical synthesis. If it succeeds, it could theoretically exist in all states simultaneously. Nothing we have could stop it. Then we don't let it succeed. Reynolds stood at the command station, watching the fleet's final preparations. All ships, this is Admiral Reynolds. Combat positions. Remember your training. Remember what brought us here. The fleet moved with practiced precision. Energy-based ships took up positions alongside their nuclear-powered cousins. Archean bioorganic vessels flanked converted Council cruisers. Humanity's primitive destroyers formed the spearhead, their hybrid weapons representing the perfect fusion of old and new. The entities reaching critical mass, Rodriguez reported from Tactical. Energy patterns are... Wait. She adjusted her sensors. Sir, these readings, they're familiar. Kate rushed to confirm the data, her eyes widening. Marcus, look at this pattern. It's the same quantum signature we detected from those ancient precursor ruins. The Predators, They weren't just weapons. They were a test. A test. The Chancellor's voice came through the command channel, his translator struggling to convey his confusion. Of course, Kate breathed, understanding flooding through her. The precursors didn't vanish. They evolved, became pure energy beings. But before they did, she looked up at Reynolds. They left behind guardians, to ensure no other civilization made their mistake. Their mistake? Reynolds asked, though his expression showed he was beginning to understand. Pursuing only one path of advancement. Kate's fingers flew across her console, correlating data. The predators weren't meant to destroy us. They were meant to force us to maintain balance, to preserve diversity in our development. The entity pulsed, its structure beginning to stabilize. The perfect synthesis it sought was nearly complete. All ships, execute attack pattern Omega, Reynolds commanded. Everyone knows their part. Together, the battle erupted across multiple planes of existence. Council ships fired pure energy weapons, disrupting the entity's quantum field. Human railguns struck its physical components, their depleted uranium rounds tearing through newly solid matter. Arxian vessels launched bioorganic torpedoes that attacked on both levels simultaneously. The entity fought back, its tentacles of quantum metal lashing out in impossible patterns. Ships vanished, were reborn, transformed as reality itself buckled under the strain of combat between states of being. Its structures destabilizing, Kate reported, clinging to her station as the Cassandra shuddered under a near miss. The different attack vectors are preventing it from achieving stable synthesis, but it's not enough to destroy it. Reynolds watched the battle unfold, decades of military experience combining with new understanding. Because we're still fighting it as separate forces. Doctor, what happens if we synchronize everything? Time our attacks to strike in perfect harmony. Kate's eyes lit up. Forced synchronization, yes, if we can match its attempt at synthesis with our own. All ships, new orders, Reynolds broadcast. Link your firing controls to the Cassandra. Dr. Morrison will coordinate timing. Every weapon, every ship, fires as one. The entity seemed to sense their plan. Its attacks became desperate, erratic. But the combined fleet held formation, their diverse technologies aligning under Kate's careful calculations. Synchronization complete, she announced. All ships report ready. Reynolds took a deep breath. For the future, fire. Every weapon in the fleet triggered simultaneously. Energy beams, physical projectiles, hybrid torpedoes, and bioorganic weapons struck as one perfect force. The entity's attempt at synthesis was met with synthesis of a different kind, the unified will of multiple civilizations, multiple technologies, multiple approaches to existence itself. The void erupted in light and darkness, energy and matter, being and nothingness. When the sensors cleared, the entity was gone, but it had left something behind. A quantum message, pulsing in patterns that Kate's systems quickly translated. The test is passed, she read aloud, her voice filled with wonder. Balance is achieved. Evolution continues. The former Chancellor's voice came through the command channel, his translator conveying actual emotion for the first time. And now, what becomes of us? Reynolds looked at Kate, then at the combined fleet, humanity and aliens, physical and energy weapons, old and new technologies all working in harmony. Now, he said with a smile, we evolve. Together. Above them, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe itself approved of their hard-won wisdom. The age of pure advancement was over. The age of synthesis had begun.